For 2 years, I worked as a maid in the Harrison mansion. Nobody knew who I really was. Not the arrogant Harrison family. Not the spoiled fiancé who threw coffee at me. Not even Ethan Harrison himself. To them, I was just Emily, the quiet maid who cleaned floors and stayed out of trouble. But there was one tiny problem. The mansion they lived in legally belonged to me. And they were about to find out. Every morning started the same way. Wake up. Put on the maid uniform. Ignore insults. Survive another day. Emily. Sophia Harrison's voice echoed through the mansion. I hurried upstairs. She pointed toward a designer dress lying on the floor. You ironed this wrong. I followed the instructions. Wrong answer. Sophia grabbed a glass of orange juice and poured it directly onto the dress. Now do it again. The other servants looked away. Nobody wanted trouble. Especially not from Sophia. She was engaged to Ethan Harrison, the future lady of the house, the queen of cruelty. I picked up the ruined dress quietly. No arguments. No complaints. Sophia smirked. Good girl. If she only knew. If any of them knew. The entire Harrison estate sat on land purchased by my grandfather 50 years ago. Before his death, he transferred ownership into a trust. A trust with one beneficiary. Me. Emily Carter. The granddaughter everyone believed disappeared overseas. The real owner of everything. I had returned under a false name for one reason. Evidence. Someone inside the Harrison family had stolen millions from my grandfather's foundation. I intended to find out who, then destroy them. Patiently. Slowly. Completely. That evening, another disaster arrived. A black luxury car rolled through the front gates. The servants immediately stood straighter. Even Sophia checked her makeup. Ethan Harrison was home. The billionaire CEO stepped out of the vehicle. Tall, handsome, intimidating, and unfortunately for my sanity, far more observant than everyone else. The moment he entered the mansion, his eyes found me. Again. It happened every time. For reasons I couldn't understand. Sophia wrapped herself around his arm. Ethan. He barely looked at her. His attention remained on me. A strange feeling settled in my stomach. Danger. This was dangerous. Because if Ethan discovered my identity before I found the thief, everything could collapse. Unfortunately, Ethan Harrison had already started investigating me, and hidden inside his office was a file. A very thick file, with my real name written across the front. Emily Carter. The missing heiress.
The first time I realized Ethan Harrison was investigating me, it wasn't because I found the file. It was because he knew something he shouldn't have known. 3 days after his return, I was working in the mansion library. The room was empty. Quiet. Peaceful. Exactly how I liked it. I was dusting the highest bookshelf when my phone slipped from my pocket. It hit the floor with a loud crack. Great. I sighed and picked it up. The screen was shattered. Wonderful. Just wonderful. That's the third phone this year. A deep voice spoke behind me. I nearly jumped. Ethan. Of course. Why was he always appearing out of nowhere? I quickly straightened. Sorry, sir. His eyes narrowed. Why are you apologizing? I blinked. What? You broke your phone. He folded his arms. I wasn't the one who dropped it. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Most wealthy people barely noticed employees. Ethan noticed everything. It was annoying. Very annoying. Especially because he was handsome. Not that it mattered. At all. Absolutely not. His gaze moved toward the cracked screen. Buy a new one. I almost laughed. A new phone cost more than a month's salary. Easy advice from a billionaire. I'll survive. His expression darkened. Then he reached into his pocket. A black credit card appeared. Take it. I stared, then stared harder. Was he serious? No. His eyebrow rose. No? No. Something dangerous flashed through his eyes. The kind of expression powerful men got when people told them no. Unfortunately for him, I wasn't impressed. For several seconds, we simply stared at each other. Then Ethan sighed. Again. He seemed to do that a lot around me. Fine. He slipped the card away. But his eyes remained fixed on me, as if trying to solve a puzzle. I hated puzzles. Especially when I was the puzzle. That evening, Sophia created another problem. I was carrying a tray of drinks during a family gathering. Investors. Business partners. Socialites. Important people. Exactly the kind of event I preferred avoiding. Unfortunately, Sophia spotted me. A smile appeared. The dangerous kind. Immediately I knew trouble was coming. Emily. I stopped. Yes, Miss Harrison? Her smile widened. Come here. Never a good sign. Slowly I approached. The guests watched with mild curiosity. Sophia picked up a glass of red wine. Then she accidentally spilled it, directly onto her own dress. Gasps filled the room. The expensive white fabric turned red instantly. Sophia looked at me, then pointed. It was her. Silence. I almost laughed. The lie was so obvious, but nobody challenged her. Nobody except Ethan. Really? His voice cut through the room. Sophia stiffened. Yes. Ethan looked at the wine glass, then at Sophia, then at me. Finally he spoke. Interesting. A pause. The security camera shows otherwise. The room froze. Sophia's face turned white. Apparently she had forgotten about the cameras. A rookie mistake. Ethan's gaze hardened. Apologize. What? His voice became colder. Now. Sophia looked horrified. She wasn't used to being corrected publicly, especially not by her fiancé. The humiliation was obvious. But after a long moment, she turned toward me. I'm sorry. The words sounded painful. Good. They should. For 2 years, she had treated me like garbage. One apology wasn't enough. Not even close. Still, it was a start. The guests quickly returned to their conversations. The drama ended. Or so I thought. An hour later, I discovered something alarming. Very alarming. I had gone upstairs to clean one of the guest rooms. Halfway down the hallway, I heard voices. Ethan's office door was slightly open. Inside, Ethan was talking to someone. A private investigator. I froze. Any updates? The investigator nodded. We confirmed it. My pulse quickened. Confirmed what? Ethan leaned forward. What about Emily? The mention of my fake name immediately captured my attention. The investigator opened a folder. Everything about her is suspicious. My heart stopped. Oh, that's not good. Very not good. The investigator continued. No birth records. No previous employment history. No family information. No social media before 2 years ago. Silence. Then Ethan spoke. What does that tell you? The investigator hesitated. She's hiding something. I backed away carefully. Slowly. Quietly. Because hearing any more seemed like a terrible idea. One thing was now obvious. Ethan knew I wasn't who I claimed to be. The question was how much he knew. And whether he discovered my real identity. The answer arrived 2 days later. In the worst possible way. That afternoon, I entered the mansion archives. Old property records filled the room. Exactly what I needed. I was searching for evidence against the Harrison family accountant when I heard footsteps. Then the door opened. Ethan entered. My stomach sank. Not again. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then his gaze landed on the document in my hand. Everything changed. Because it wasn't just any document. It was my grandfather's original ownership contract. The document proving the mansion belonged to me. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Dangerous. Suspicious. Intelligent. Emily. Uh-oh. That tone never meant anything good. I carefully placed the document back on the shelf. Yes. His gaze remained fixed on me. Then he asked the question. The one I'd been dreading. Who are you really? Silence. Absolute silence. My heart pounded. Hard. Fast. Violently. Because for the first time, I wasn't sure I could lie my way out of this. Ethan took a step forward. Then another. His eyes never left mine. I hired investigators. I said nothing. I searched every database available. Still nothing. His jaw tightened. Emily doesn't exist. Well, this was awkward. Very awkward. For several seconds, neither of us moved. Then something unexpected happened. Ethan sighed. Again. Honestly, the man sighed more than anyone I'd ever met. I don't care who you are. My eyes widened. What? I only care if you're in danger. The words hit harder than they should have. Danger. Not money. Not secrets. Not lies. Me. He was worried about me. Why? The question escaped before I could stop it. Why? Ethan froze. For one dangerous second. Then he looked away. Interesting. Very interesting. Was Ethan Harrison blushing? No. Impossible. Billionaires didn't blush. Especially arrogant billionaires. Yet somehow, his ears were turning red. Fascinating. Finally, he answered. Because you're important. My heart skipped. The room suddenly felt too small. Too warm. Too quiet. Neither of us knew what to say next. Luckily for me, a loud crash echoed downstairs. Both our heads snapped toward the door. Then came screaming. Lots of screaming. Sophia. Without hesitation, Ethan rushed toward the hallway. I followed. The scene downstairs was chaos. Servants running, guests shouting, security guards everywhere. And standing in the center of it all was Sophia, holding a folder. My folder? The folder containing evidence against the Harrison family. My blood ran cold, because if she opened it, everything would be exposed. Sophia waved the documents triumphantly. I found it. The room fell silent. Everyone stared. Even Ethan. Sophia smiled. A cruel smile. The kind that meant disaster. Then she pulled out the first page and read the name aloud. Emily Carter. The folder slipped from my numb fingers. Because my biggest secret was no longer a secret. And judging by Ethan Harrison's expression, he had just realized exactly who I was. The missing heiress, the true owner of a Harrison estate, and the woman he'd accidentally fallen in love with. The room fell completely silent. No one moved. No one breathed. Sophia stood in the center of the grand hall, clutching the folder like she'd just won the lottery. Emily Carter, she repeated loudly. The name echoed through the mansion. My real name, the name I had spent 2 years hiding. The name everyone believed had disappeared forever. Around us, guests began whispering. Emily Carter? The Carter heiress. I thought she lived overseas. Wait, isn't she the granddaughter of William Carter? Sophia's smile grew wider. For once, she thought she was the smartest person in the room. Unfortunately for her, she was very wrong. Well. She turned toward me. So our little maid has been lying. The guests stared at me. I could feel hundreds of eyes watching, waiting, judging, speculating. Sophia held up another document. Do you know what this means? She laughed. The servant you've all been ordering around is actually the missing Carter heiress. Gasps spread through the crowd. Someone nearly dropped a champagne glass. I remained perfectly calm, because panic would accomplish nothing. Across the room, Ethan was staring at me. Not with anger, not with betrayal, with concern. That alone made my heart ache. Sophia continued talking. Unfortunately, a lot. The funny part? She grinned. She sneaked into this house pretending to be a maid. Her gaze became vicious. Tell everyone why, Emily. I said nothing, because I already knew something she didn't. She believed exposing my identity would destroy me. In reality, it would destroy her. The front door suddenly opened. Several people entered. Lawyers, accountants, financial investigators, and at the front of the group, Elena Morgan, my grandfather's former attorney. The moment Sophia saw them, her smile disappeared. Interesting. Very interesting. Elena walked directly toward me, then stopped, in front of everyone. She bowed her head slightly. Miss Carter. The entire room froze. Sophia looked confused, then nervous, then terrified. Because Elena wasn't just any lawyer. She was one of the most respected corporate attorneys in the country, and she had just publicly acknowledged me. Elena turned toward the guests. Ladies and gentlemen, her voice carried effortlessly through the hall. I believe there's been a misunderstanding. Sophia laughed nervously. What misunderstanding? Elena smiled. The ownership of this estate. Silence. Absolute silence. And then Elena opened a thick folder. The Harrison estate was purchased by William Carter in 1972. Guests exchanged confused looks. The Harrisons themselves looked even more confused. Elena continued. Ownership remained under Carter Holdings for 53 years. Sophia's face slowly lost color. No, surely not. She couldn't possibly be realizing the truth already. Could she? Apparently she could, because her mouth fell open. And for the first time since I'd met her, she looked genuinely frightened. Elena lifted a document. 3 years ago, ownership transferred to William Carter's sole heir. A pause. Then she looked directly at me. Emily Carter. The room exploded. People started talking all at once. What? You're kidding. This mansion belongs to her. The maid owns the estate. The shock was almost funny. Almost. Across the room, Sophia looked like she might faint. Her mother, Victoria Harrison, looked even worse. That's impossible. Victoria's voice shook. We lived here for years. Elena nodded. Rent-free. The word hit like a bomb. Rent-free. Several guests actually laughed. Others looked horrified. Victoria swayed slightly. Apparently nobody enjoyed learning they'd been living in someone else's house, especially not in front of wealthy investors. Ethan never took his eyes off me. Not once. And somehow that affected me more than anything else. The mansion. The money. The inheritance. None of it mattered compared to the way he was looking at me. Like I was the only person in the room. Like I always had been. Unfortunately, Sophia wasn't finished embarrassing herself. She pointed at me. This is ridiculous. Her voice cracked. Even if she owns the house, she can't prove anything else. I smiled. Finally. The moment I'd waited 2 years for. Actually, I stepped forward. I can. The room fell silent again. I accepted another folder from Elena, then opened it. Inside was everything. Every transaction. Every stolen dollar. Every forged signature. Every lie. Victoria's face turned white. Because she recognized the documents immediately. Good. That saved time. I looked directly at her. Would you like me to explain where the missing $23 million went? The silence became suffocating. Guests looked from me to Victoria, then back again. Victoria appeared unable to breathe. Sophia looked confused. Clearly her mother hadn't shared everything. Interesting. Very interesting. I continued. For years, money disappeared from my grandfather's charitable foundation. I held up a page. This account, another page, and this one, another, and this one. Struck the table like a hammer. Luxury vacations, designer purchases, offshore transfers, private properties. Sophia slowly turned toward her mother. No. Victoria closed her eyes. That told everyone everything. The room erupted again. Some guests were openly recording now. Others looked horrified. One investor immediately stood up and walked toward the exit, probably trying to distance himself from the scandal. Smart decision. Very smart. Victoria suddenly snapped. Your grandfather was dying. Her voice cracked. He wasn't using the money. The room froze. Even I hadn't expected her to admit it. Not publicly. Not this easily. Apparently panic destroyed intelligence. Good to know. You stole from a charity. I spoke quietly. The disappointment in my voice hurt more than anger. Victoria looked away. She couldn't meet my eyes. Neither could Sophia. For the first time in her life, she finally understood who her mother really was. And she hated it. Minutes later, police officers entered the mansion. Nobody seemed surprised. Especially not me. The evidence was overwhelming. Victoria was arrested immediately. Sophia burst into tears. The guests watched everything. Every second. Every humiliation. Every consequence. As Victoria was led away in handcuffs, she turned toward me. Hatred burned in her eyes. But I felt nothing. Absolutely nothing. Because people eventually face the consequences of their choices. And hers had finally arrived. One by one, the guests left. The mansion slowly emptied. Eventually only a handful of people remained. Elena, a few investigators, Ethan, and me. The moment the last guest disappeared, exhaustion crashed into me. 2 years. 2 entire years. The mission was finally over. The truth was exposed. The inheritance was safe. The thieves were gone. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt tired. Very tired. Elena seemed to understand. She squeezed my shoulder gently, then gathered her team. Within minutes, they left, leaving Ethan and me alone. The mansion suddenly felt much larger, much quieter. Dangerously quiet. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then Ethan finally broke the silence. You should have told me. His voice was soft. Not angry, just hurt. I looked down. I know. He took a step closer. I would have helped you. I know. Another step. You didn't trust me. That one hurt. Because it was true. At first, not anymore. But at first, definitely. I looked up and immediately wished I hadn't. Because the expression on his face nearly broke my heart. I wanted to trust you. I spoke honestly. The problem was that everyone else lied. He nodded slowly, as if he understood. Maybe he did. After everything that had happened, maybe he understood better than anyone. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then Ethan laughed softly, a tired laugh. I spent 6 months investigating you. I blinked. 6 months? He nodded. I thought you were a spy. I stared, then burst out laughing. A spy. Of all the ridiculous possibilities, that one was somehow the funniest. Ethan smiled, and suddenly everything felt easier, lighter, warmer. The tension between us shifted, changed, became something else. Something neither of us could ignore anymore. Ethan. His smile faded. Yeah? I took a deep breath. There was no point hiding anymore. No more lies. No more disguises. No more pretending. I like you. The words hung in the air. Simple. Honest. Terrifying. For a second, Ethan looked stunned. Then genuinely shocked. Then unbelievably happy. The transformation was almost adorable. Almost. Like me. I rolled my eyes. Don't make this difficult. His grin widened. Too much. Far too much. Unfortunately, it made him even more handsome, which was annoying. Very annoying. Evelyn. My stomach fluttered. I wasn't prepared for how gently he said my name. Not even close. He stepped closer. Close enough that I could hear his heartbeat. Close enough that I forgot how breathing worked. I don't just like you. The look in his eyes stole every coherent thought from my brain. I love you. The confession hit harder than expected. Because I knew he meant it. Every word. Every feeling. Every promise hidden behind those 3 simple words. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I smiled. A real smile. The kind reserved for special people. Special moments. Special futures. And judging by Ethan's expression, he planned to be part of mine. For a very long time. Slowly, he reached for my hand. I let him. His fingers intertwined with mine effortlessly. Naturally. As though they'd always belonged there. Maybe they had. Then Ethan leaned forward and kissed me. Softly. Gently. Like something precious. Something worth protecting. When he finally pulled away, neither of us moved. Neither of us wanted to. Outside, the sun was beginning to set. Golden light filled the mansion. My mansion. Our future. And for the first time in years, everything felt right. Absolutely right. Because sometimes the greatest inheritance isn't money, or property, or power. Sometimes it's finding the person who chooses you, again and again, no matter what. And as Ethan pulled me into his arms, I realized I had finally found mine.